Now we are joined by the Troy Boyz. They are coming on from Troy, Alabama to talk a little bit about this game this weekend. Are we calling this the de facto 2022 Sun Belt Championship? Is that allowed to be said for this game? Can we get the bragging rights?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because we already got the trophy. So,
what if we come and take it after the win? Is that allowed or no?
No, that's why I wore this shirt, fellas, because I wanted y'all to see what a conference championship sweatshirt looked like. I know y'all hadn't seen one yet.
No, yeah, we appreciate that. But
and then
talk to the NCAA.
I wore this hat because somebody needs to corral y'all back into reality. All right, so that's what the Troy Boyz are. The old sheriff is in town, and we got a young upstart that's come into the saloon and is starting a bunch of trouble. And now it's time for us, just like in Tombstone. We got to kick this thing back out into the street, boys. So Troy is here to take care of business. We're glad y'all have had so much fun kicking dust around in the Sun Belt, but it ends today. All right, it comes back to peace and order.
I'm going to be honest. I'm very excited for this game. I've been looking forward to it, I think, since the schedule came out. We've had a great time. I came on your guys' podcast earlier this week. Enjoyed talking with you guys last year, but for JMU fans, if you guys kind of want to say who y'all are, where they can find you and keep up to date throughout this week, getting ready for this, we'll call it the de facto Sun Belt Championship if you guys won't, but no, for this awesome Sun Belt opener for both teams.
Yeah, so the Troy Boyz, we are in our third season officially. We've been doing this probably 4 or 5 seasons. We started in the middle of the dark ages of the Chip Lindsey era. When Troy couldn't win a coin toss for the most part, and have been at it reviewing and previewing and kind of doing everything you can for Troy as a podcast since then. And Bass, I'm going to let you do the hard work of telling where can people find us on the social media platforms that y'all get me to stay away from.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Troy Boyz Podcast. We made it pretty easy for everybody. And you can find us most anywhere you stream your podcast, Anchor, Apple, Spotify, etc., Google. You can find us most anywhere except for YouTube. That's the one place we don't stream, just because I don't want to open the can of worms of comments.
That's a smart move. We just opened the can of worms on YouTube this season, actually, and it's been a fun time, but it's a different beast. But this game's here. You guys come into it. You didn't seem too excited about your offense last time we talked, and I was a little shocked about that. What can JMU fans expect out of Troy this Saturday, 7 p.m. on NFL Network?
Oh, well, the offensive scheme for Troy has evolved a lot over the last couple of years. Troy has really been known as that NASCAR air raid offense, and that's just not what we are anymore. We're a run-first team now, and that's something that Troy fans are still having to adjust to and get used to. But Kamani Vidal in the backfield is an easy 4 or 5 yards if we have the right protection up front to make those kinds of things happen for us. So we're currently sitting as a run-first offense, and that's something that the fans are not really used to right now.
Yeah, I think you're going to see an offense that is still finding itself. Troy, and I know you guys are having dealt with members of your fan base on social media. I know you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, but Troy's fan base has a very loose and occasional relationship with reality. And so a lot of the expectations that people had for the offense simply weren't things that they should have had. We lost a lot of great talent. And it's, in July on a message board, it's fine to say, well, Ray J. Johnson's gone, to play professional football, but we're going to replace him with this 19-year-old kid from, Tumbling Weed, Alabama, which maybe we will. But most of the time, it takes a little more time than that to replace a guy who's such a big part of your offense. So Seabass is absolutely right. You're going to see a Trojan attack that wants to run you over as much as it possibly can. And then just when you've gotten tired of Kamani Vidal running all over you, Gunnar Watson and some of the fresh faces in our wide receiver room start to pick up yardage, middle and deeper down the field. And Gunnar really can make those throws if he has the time. So that's what I would expect to see from the offense.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I know JMU can stop the run a decent amount, but you've got a quarterback room with Gunnar Watson and Goose Crowder, which is an all-name position group. But what can you tell us about Gunnar? It's the starting quarterback. It seems like maybe they rely more on the run, but is he a solid option for Troy?
Joe, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I guess I'll take Gunner, and then Seabass and the rest of the Spartacus Rebels can take Goose Crowder. Gunner is a 6-year super senior. I like to joke that he's taken 6 years off of professional turkey hunting in Central Georgia to play quarterback for a little while. He has learned a lot and grown a lot over the past 18 months, 24 months. He was brought in by Chip Lindsey, who is a terrible, terrible, terrible coach, and wasn't developed by him at all. And so really when John Summerall got to campus, famously he said that Gunnar Watson couldn't do a pull-up when he got to campus. So Gunnar is still kind of doing development that he should have been doing as a sophomore or a junior, but really is starting to improve. Was the MVP of the conference championship game that we won, in case y'all forgot from a few minutes ago. Gunnar Watson knows the offense back and forth, and certainly knows how to connect. He's got some of his favorite targets back in Jabri Barber. So very comfortable with some guys that he's throwing to. But I'm going to let Seabass go ahead. He's going to have just a heck of a time right now and just talk about Goose Crowder, the Lord and Savior of Troy Trojan Nation.
Hey, let loose the goose. Hey, sophomore Goose Crowder from Gardendale, Alabama. He's a transfer out of West Virginia coming to the Trojans. So, Neil Brown can't keep him either. So we'll take him. He's 13 for 14 on his career. So he really has almost no experience in the grand scheme of things. But he can complete passes when necessary. For the season, he's -6 yards, and that comes mostly off of the last offensive play of the game last week, which amounted in a sack and his one turnover. Troy fans love Goose Crowder. I like Goose Crowder, and I'm falling for the problem that is, the belle of the ball is always QB2.
Mm-hmm.
It's the unsung hero that when they get the chance to sing, they're not the hero. So I like Goose just because he's sitting at QB2. That's the end of the story there for me. But like Joe said, Gunner's been our guy forever, and there's a reason he keeps getting put in QB1. It's because he can get the job done when the time comes.
Yeah. Leave it to Bennett. Last week, we had a guest on. He talked all about punters. This week, he asked a question that brings us to the QB2. So really hard-hitting journalism from the co-host right here. But defensively for you guys, a new D coordinator comes in, a little bit of turnover on that side of the ball. Not necessarily a ton, but has there been any change in how you guys feel about that Troy defense? Because it was one of, if not the best unit in the Sun Belt last year.
Yeah, nobody told us that when you have a guy on your team that's the NCAA all-time leader in tackles and then he leaves, that's going to be a problem. That didn't come with the paperwork or anything, but we're figuring that out now. I tap my heels together 3 times, multiple times a game, and wish for Carlton Marshall to be back because just having a guy at that middle linebacker slot cleaning up what gets past the defensive line, that was a huge advantage that I don't even think we fully appreciated when we had him there. I think we're kind of appreciating him more now. I think we're really strong on the backside. Reddy Stewart, I think, is probably the best secondary player in this conference. I know you might have, 3 or 4 fans down in Mobile that want to talk to you about Yam Banks. But save the yam for Thanksgiving, okay? Because Reddy Stewart is the real deal. And the defensive line still has a ways to come. We're waiting for TJ Jackson, who was preseason defensive player of the year, to see if he comes back. He was suspended violation of team rules, and has kind of been available the past couple weeks, but still can't quite slide off that naughty stool. You know what I mean? He's in the kitchen, but he's still not allowed to eat the cookie dough with the rest of the kids. So we're hoping maybe this Saturday we see TJ. What are your thoughts, Seabass, on this defense?
I mean, when you lose elite caliber players, you do take a step backwards. And like Joe was saying, we've realized that, and we're having to figure out who we are again on defense. But our defense is still stacked with household names in the Troy Trojan community: Del Pettis, Jaden McDonald, Reddy Stewart, Javon Solomon, Richard Jubinor, Zach Edwards, Luis Medina. Then the list goes on and on and on. Troy has been known to be that defensive team. We were referred to for the longest time as the Wall. And it's because our defense has always been that blue collar style of down and dirty football. And that's been the hallmark of Troy football. And I feel like we're still there. We're just not where we were last year. So fans are a little upset about it, but when you come from the best, it's you're going to take a step back when you lose those players. But we still have a stout quality defense that no one should sleep on.
Gotcha. JMU fans, they've got some very positive vibes after the Virginia win. What's the vibe like for the Troy fan base here at 1-1 after a couple weeks?
The vibe is reality check. And I feel like everybody's got that. When you haven't lost a game in 355 days, that means something. So for it to be the first loss since the loss, as it's becoming known as now for us, we cannot do a single podcast since that loss without referencing it. And here it is again being referenced. The vibe is just, we've lost. What's the next step? And no one really knows what the next step is. Word on the street is Coach Summerall let everyone have it and took everyone, quote, to the woodshed. That would be staff, players included. No one was safe after that loss because that man does not like losing. He gets you fired up. Go watch the behind the wall segments that we post on Twitter and Facebook, and you'll see that he is somebody that he can be really cool, calm, and collected behind a microphone. But when he's at practice and at work, he is in your face and ready to get the job done. And whenever he loses, it's not a pretty picture on the other side of the wall.
Yep. No, for sure. I think Troy's fan base is just trying to figure out what this means. You had a lot of people who I think were overly confident going into a game with a very, very tough Kansas State squad. And, the Troy Boyz did our part in the preseason special to say, not so fast, my friend. This is going to be a tough game. But still, you have people that have become very used to winning very, very quickly. And so, I think people are going to flip that switch back really quickly, especially because it's JMU coming to town and because of the relationship that's kind of been formed between our two fan bases, especially on social media. There are a lot of Troy people who are very, very ready for this game. And feel kind of like JMU fans disrespected our conference championship. And so I don't know that it would have mattered if we're 1-1, 2-0, 0-2. There, as I said, Jack, when you were on our podcast, these are two fan bases that are meeting up for a street fight, and everybody's just hoping that a football game breaks out. Okay. Because there are a lot of hard feelings. And a lot of people, really ready to see what happens on the field and hoping that their team exercises some serious demons against the other. So I think Troy, by now, people have flipped the page and they're ready to hashtag beat JMU.
Yeah, that's a great point. JMU did bring out a sign that said Kings of the East and paraded around and said a lot of things in the offseason. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Troy's had this game circled on their calendar for quite some time, and they've been ready for this game in a way that I'm not sure JMU has. It's the perfect spot for both teams in terms of Troy coming off of that loss, getting ready for it. They can get up where JMU is coming off of this win over UVA that me and Bennett and fans alike kind of say it might be one of the the top 10 best wins in program history. But then they got to turn their attention to Troy, which is going to be a dogfight of a game. So before you guys get up on out of here, I want to see what your expectations are for this game, how you see it playing out, and of course, your score prediction and winner at the end of it.
Ooh, go ahead, Bass.
Oh gosh. To me, the question of the game is going to be, how do people respond? Do we get up off of our backsides after this loss and say, so what, now what, move on and take care of business the following week? I know y'all are new around the block to the FBS, but the G5 team beating the P5 team statistically is not a good following week.
Yes. Even for
yeah.
FCS, when we would beat G5 teams as an FCS school the following week, while we didn't necessarily lose every time, there was always kind of a closer game than expected. So 100% understand that letdown.
It's statistically not a good week to follow. Everybody remembers the LSU win that the Trojans had, but they don't remember the following week, and that was a loss at home to South Alabama. And they were dog water. It was terrible. Kitty water. They were kitty water. And so that's my saving grace in thinking about all of this is James Madison has not really had to do that. Not really had to follow up against the big time in-state win and then go on the road to what would be the conference champion from the following year. You have not had that. Yeah. So I don't know that that's going to play well for y'all. And I think the team with the more experience in that department is going to win the game. Trojans by 50.
Oh, okay. Well, guess we can see who's drinking liquor and who's drinking beer here, boys. So yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a tough game for sure. I do think Troy responds better into this situation. Troy, Alabama is not an easy place to get to, even if you wake up in Troy, Alabama. Okay, I mean, it's a trip to get to, and it's certainly going to be a trip for the Duke Dogs as they come down. The fan base is very behind this team right now. I think Veterans Memorial is going to be filled with folks that are ready to see a big win. I think John Summerall has been on the warpath. That's been all over kind of the media covering this team, is that John has just been raising holy hell with anybody who will listen about what comes next. And so I think James Madison, unfortunately, probably with their heads held maybe a little too high after that big Virginia win, walk into a buzzsaw. And I think Troy gets up early. James Madison tries to surge back, but the defense can't or doesn't allow them to do that. I think you're looking at a final score of like 35-17 with the Trojans winning and everybody having a nice time at the Santa Fe Steakhouse on beautiful Highway 231.
All right. Okay. We'll agree to disagree. I can't wait for this game. I can't wait to have some fun with you guys on Twitter. Win or loss for either one of our teams, I think it's going to be a good time on the socials. Thank you guys so much for coming on the JMU Sports News podcast. Be sure to follow the Troy Boys on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Troy Boys Podcast. Thank you all for taking the time out of your night and talking some football with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us. Go Trojans.
Thanks for having us. Go Trojans. God bless you, Blaze Brown.